I think it's important to talk about who should not fast. Now, I see a lot of people, I have to believe they're well-meaning fit pros. I'm going to pick on the fit pros for a second. Well-meaning fit pros on Instagram who like to proudly show off that they fasted through all of their pregnancies and while breastfeeding. And let me be real. If you are growing a human or breastfeeding a human, this is not the time to restrict the food that you're consuming. This is the one time I always say that for me, I had a cousin who was an OBGYN and she said, when you are breastfeeding a child, it is like you can eat like a linebacker. I now understand that concept, having had 2 children who are now teenagers and eat like linebackers. But that is not the time to be restricting the macros that you're consuming. So wait until you're done being pregnant or done breastfeeding. A lot of women, I get this question a lot on social media as well, history of a disordered relationship with food, particularly binge eating, bulimia, and anorexia. Now, when I did my training many years ago in Baltimore, I did have a lot of clinical time at a hospital called Shepherd Pratt, which is an eating disorder facility. And so I got to train with a lot of fellows that were working in this area. Anorexia has one of the lowest cure rates of all the eating disorders. And so I find a lot of women that have a history of anorexia, it's a very tough thing for them to be able to tolerate, and I generally don't recommend it. Have I had women that have worked with me that have a history of binge eating and bulimia and a few with anorexia that in conjunction with working with an eating disorder specialist have been able to dip their toe in that pond? Yes, but it's not the most common individual. So just to kind of tuck that in the back of your mind, if you're too thin, if your BMI is less than 18, you have no business fasting, male or female. Children and teens. I have a teenager. My husband's in the audience, so he'll be humored to hear me say this. I have a teenager who's a competitive swimmer, and he does not like to eat breakfast. So we have to talk about how he can get enough food in during his day to be able to fuel his workouts and his brain to be able to excel at school, but I don't recommend kids fast. Now, does he eat within a compressed window because he doesn't eat? But he eats so much food. Remember I said he's like the linebacker. It's unbelievable. If someone's frail or elderly, I made a mistake in 2019 when I did my second TED Talk talking about people over the age of 75 or 70, and I got a lot of flack. And it was because I was required by the event where I was speaking at to give a number. And I have since been graciously humbled by the amount of individuals who have done very well fasting into their 70s and beyond. So it's always in the context, are you frail? You could be frail and be 40 years old. So are you frail, or are you someone that's, in a position where you have brittle diabetes, you don't know what your blood sugar is doing? If you lack that awareness, then you have to actually be very careful. If you're recently hospitalized, I think this goes without saying. And best practice, if you are considering fasting and you're on a lot of medications, maybe you see a cardiologist, maybe you see a nephrologist, a kidney doctor, or pulmonologist, have a conversation. I'm finding more and more healthcare professionals are really open to the concept of allowing their patients to fast safely. You do want to, if you take blood pressure medication, if you're on diabetes medication, you want to make sure they are aware, because you more than likely will need less medication. And that's a beautiful thing. That's what we want. We want to see our patients coming off of these lifestyle medications as much as possible.